Hello everyone, my name is Lalit and today we are going to talk about various asset classes and its interaction with each other. In short, we call that assetology. Now what is assetology? Yeah, is it a science? Is it an art? Or is it like its cousin, an astrology? Well, my friends, it is a combination of all three. Investment by itself is a science where you understand what's happening in the market, you see what is the trend and predict what would be the future and invest accordingly. It is an art because while the science will tell you that this is happening, picking a right stock or a right instrument is equally important, and more importantly is the timing. And is it an astrology? Well, we have some set of people who believe it's also an astrology. So depending on where the moon is placed today and what will happen in the market tomorrow is what they predict. So it's a combination. You can take your pick whether it's in science, art or astrology. For our discussion, more importantly, we think we would discuss more. It's a combination of science and art. Now, investment normally happens into two areas. One is your financial assets and the second is your real physical assets. Financial assets comprises of equities, debt, bonds and debentures and stuff like that, while your physical assets is something that you touch and feel. So real estate falls into that category. Also gold, because that's something what you can touch and feel, falls into category of physical asset. Currently we also have gold in a non-physical asset, so there is a confusion there, but let's take for our discussion that it's a physical asset right now, and non-physical we can discuss as we go along. Now what is equally important is when we are evaluating when we should invest, what we should invest, which stock to pick, which bond to pick, your financial planning or goals play a very important part in that. However, once you have understood that I need to follow a particular asset allocation model, still picking the right sub assets within that asset plays a very big important part. Again, in asset allocation, you have strategic asset allocation and tactical asset allocation. Strategic is something which you do for a longer period of time, while tactical is depending on market conditions, on the environment in which business is being done, on the government policies, you take a decision whether to invest or not to invest, whether to buy or sell. Therefore, it is very important that one keeps oneself abreast of the situation that is around us and take decisions appropriately. This assetology concept is at a very macro level explains to you that if uh, some event happens in the market, then what we should be looking at to invest or not to invest, and therefore it plays a very important part. Now before we get into details of assetology, it is equally important to understand one very basic principle of how assets move with each other. There is an element of cause and effect. Now I have a building which is put up by all rich residents in the building, and to protect them I employ guards. So the number of guards when the building was getting constructed, let's say, was 0, and now the building is constructed, all the residents have moved in, fancy jewelry, fancy cars, fancy instruments they have. Therefore the number of guards required to manage the visitors in that building is, let's say, 10 for the point of discussion. Now the robbery takes place in that building. Now would you attribute that robbery because number of police or security staff has increased, the robbery has taken place, or would you attribute because robbery took place you increase the number of people? So what is the cause of that robbery and what is the effect? Now is the cause number of security people? Obviously not. Then what is the right cause? So now if we say is the cause number of robberies, so if the robbery increases, will you increase the number of security guards? Possibly yes. So therefore the cause is robbery while the effect would be better security or more number of people. Similarly, interactions between asset follow this cause and effect. And my dear friends, if one is not able to distinguish what is the cause and what is the effect, then let me tell you, this soon becomes a roll of dice where you have no control of what is going to happen with your investments. So we'll take this forward from here and try to understand the various interactions at a very macro level and how does that influence the assets in which you would either want to invest or want to exit your investment. This is a snapshot of all the cause and effect. On the top hand side, we have interest rate, inflation, current account, exchange rate, capital flows, GDP, which is broken down further into consumption and investment, asset prices like housing, equity and gold for our discussion today, and extra outside control factors, which is oil, your government finances, tax and money supply. Now if we assume these are the cause, and on this side we have the effect or the dependent variable, they are nothing but same. So again we have interest rate right up to money supply. Now we will try to understand that what is the impact of changes in interest rate to all the dependent variables. We could have multiple interactions between them, we could have a single interaction, and in some cases no interaction at all. Also let me admit it right now, this is just my understanding of how they interact with each other. You could have a difference of opinion and your slide or your interactions could be different but nevertheless right for you, and that is what needs to be kept in mind, that this is a decision or a feeling one takes after one understands this. So let's start with interest rate. Now what is the interest rate? We know we have various types of interest rate, short term, medium term, long term, and 10-year G-Sec is the benchmark for the interest rate calculation. Now if interest rate goes up or goes down, then what is the dependent variable? Well, let me tell you, if a 10-year interest rate goes up, it definitely has an impact on any instrument which is priced beyond 10 years, on any instrument which is priced before 10 years, which means it has an interaction with the interest rate itself. Now let's look interest rate changes on inflation. So if the interest rate goes up, would an inflation increase or decrease? Well, as you can see, I have put no interaction, but on hindsight or on further understanding, one can definitely say there is an interaction because RBI uses interest rate to control inflation.